Welcome. This is Ben from Connecticut Local, and today we're here with Gary. He's a wedding photographer from Hartford that specializes in working with geeky and introvert clients. Gary, thank you for taking the time out of your day to speak with us. Maybe tell us a little bit about your business, when you started, and yeah, what you're doing here to help our community.
Hey, I'm Gary Pope with Love Long and Prosper Photography, and pretty much what I do is just like you said, Ben, I am a photographer who specializes with working with geeky and like introvert clients. Essentially, the way that works is that instead of you hiring someone who is just like a regular photographer, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But the thing that helps you out with hiring someone like me is that not only do I just get what you're going for, like for example, I just had a mummy engagement shoot the other day, and I had to hunt down a desert in Connecticut, which does not exist. So we had to actually go all the way to Rhode Island. But it's like little things like that help along with your wedding photography, where it's like I'll go the extra step to help you out with your geeky themes and stuff. But not only that, I help you out with posing and when it comes to geeky people, I'm a geek myself, so I feel super awkward in front of a camera. So the way I make you feel like comfortable in front of a camera is that instead of telling you things like, "Oh, put your hand here and put your arm there around him," or
Uh-huh.
whatever, it's like more along the lines of like, "Oh, let's do a game right now. Let's do like a fun acting prompt or something like that." So then, usually within like 30 seconds of you doing that
Wow.
pose, you forget that you're even posing, and you're just kind of having fun and actually laughing and
I'll,
smiling
wow,
with
yeah.
your significant other.
And that's much more spontaneous as well. Like you're having fun, and that's what matters, right?
Exactly, exactly. So I'm like super ideal with couples that like hate being in front of the camera because it's like, oh no, we actually had fun during that
Mhm.
entire session. It wasn't just like a bore or oh, I just hated being in front of the camera and stuff like that. And by the way, hi everyone. This is also my neighbor's son Gio. He's pretending like he's not tired right now, but he's super tired, aren't you?
He's the assistant in photo, taking pictures.
Yeah,
All
pretty
right.
much.
So maybe give us a few examples about, what type of weddings and photo shoots you do.
So like some examples would be like I said, I just did like a mummy. That's super random. It's just the mummy, the old movie with Brendan Fraser. That was an engagement shoot I did the other day. Next year I have literally 5 Harry Potter weddings that I'm doing, and because I also have a photo booth as well, I also have like a whole bunch of costumes for Harry Potter people. So like when you come to the photo booth, it's like, oh, you already have like robes for us in for every single house for every single size of us too. Oh, that's perfect. And I also have a bunch of wands for that and everything. Also, like I do like Star Trek, Star Wars. I'm a huge Trekkie myself, hence the name Love Long and Prosper instead of Live Long and Prosper. So but yeah, that's just a bunch of examples. And pretty much any other geeky hobby you could think of, I pretty much would cover it. And not only that, I'm one of those geeks where it's like I dabble a little bit in everything. So like if you have anything that you want to talk about, it specifically when I'm working with you, you can always talk to me about it. And odds are I dabbled in it a little bit. Like if you're all of a sudden just like, hey Gary, do you know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh? But oh yeah, I watched that growing up. I played a couple tournaments myself. And then next thing someone will be like, oh, Gary, what do you know about wrestling? It's like, oh, I've been keeping up with AEW recently. So it's like when it comes to all these geeky
Uh-huh.
things, I'm a very easy person to talk to when it comes to that. And all of that, I classify myself as a closet geek. So if like for example, let's say hypothetically, if you two as a couple are super geeky, but then like your family's not at all, and then like your family's into like football and stuff like that, I could
Hmm.
talk shop and those things too. So it's like I'm very easy to get along with at a wedding,
Yeah.
so I can fit and mingle right into as well.
Wow. That's great. Like I haven't heard of a photographer like you before, so that's already a good sign.
Oh, thank
And
you.
what geographic areas do you serve? Do you serve the entire Connecticut area or some cities?
So I pretty much serve all of Connecticut, and the best way to describe it is I serve all of New England, and I also even serve New York as well.
Okay, yeah.
Like for example, I was literally in Maine a month ago. I was in Rhode Island like twice, like 2 weeks ago. Actually, no, I've been in Rhode Island like actually 3 or 4. I think I shot in Rhode Island more than in Connecticut in the past month. Now that I think about it, um, and also shoot in Connecticut as well, all over the place. So I serve pretty much all over this entire Northeast end.
Hmm. All right. So, and what was the main drive that you know, made you want to start this business and not another business instead?
So I am from the get-go, I've always been a serial entrepreneur. Um, Even though I've had day jobs, this is not the first attempt at getting my own business running. I used to be a wedding DJ, well, not just wedding DJ, but just a DJ in general. And then that just fell through because of I just hated the scene and I could not stand doing DJing after a while. But then what happened with wedding photography was actually pretty random. I wasn't even trying to be a wedding photographer. In
Okay.
fact, I even told myself that if I end up doing wedding photography, that I'm hating life right now, which is really funny how that actually ended up turning out because what I started out doing was I was a board game YouTuber. So I was doing
Okay.
YouTube videos about board games, tips and tricks,
Uh-huh.
things like how to start up your own meetup group and gaming group and stuff like that. I randomly actually traveled for that. I went to conventions. I hosted shows at conventions and all this other stuff. Was actually offered a job to work with the biggest board game media company in the world, and I turned it down because it just I would have to do a lot of things would have been good fit. But anyways, long story short, that's how I learned how to even use a camera. And then over time, I started noticing I like doing photography more than I like doing video. And then fast forward about a year or two after doing the YouTube, I quit that and started doing photography. And then I started doing weddings, and I was like, oh, I actually do like weddings. What am I talking about? And then after doing weddings for a year or two, I then realized that like my favorite clients I was working with were all geeks. Like, and then
Uh-huh.
that's when I was just like, oh, you know what? Maybe I should just start specializing with work with geeks. I'm a geek as well too, so why not? And then that's how everything evolved.
Wow, that's awesome. So, what was that turning point? How many years have you been doing this right now?
Surprisingly, can't cover the mic. That's the one thing you can't touch. But no, surprisingly, whenever I tell people how long I've been doing photography and stuff like that, they're always surprised because it's like, oh, you seem to know what you're doing, like by a long shot. But I picked up a camera for the first time 4 years ago. I actually
Mm-hmm.
just looked this up the other day where I was like, oh, when did I actually buy my first camera? It was 4 years ago. And I've been doing wedding photography specifically for about 2.5 years, almost 3 years at this point. And I'm specifically specializing in geeky wedding photography. I'm actually approaching my year anniversary. I think that's in January, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Maybe put your microphone a little bit close to your mouth
Oh, is
right
it?
now. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did you?
Well, it doesn't matter.
Is that
So,
a lot better?
yeah, a lot better. So let's
Okay.
continue to the next question. What have been some of your biggest challenges along your entrepreneurial journey, and what lessons did you learn from them?
My biggest challenges. I would say my biggest challenge is actually going full time. Because there is that awkward transition from when you're an amateur and like you're good at taking photos, but it's like you don't know how to um, properly come off to couples. You don't have a deep enough portfolio to show
Yeah.
couples to show like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I can handle things in all these certain
Yeah.
situations. But that transition was probably the hardest because that
Mm-hmm.
transition took. I actually just went full time 4 months ago. So
Oh,
yeah, just about 4 months ago. So that took a while. I mean,
yeah.
as you that took about 2-3 years for me in order to go full time. So I would say that was the hardest transition was um figuring out how to go about doing that, and
Yeah.
that just pretty much involved figuring out how to market myself properly, and then also how to uh, whenever I'm handling clients, also make sure that they're having a good time and stuff like that, so they refer me to other
Uh-huh.
people and everything. And yeah, that was probably that, just going full time.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, okay. Yeah, it takes a few years for most businesses, and that you went through it. So many businesses fail within the first few years, and that you came through the first challenge, you know, that sets you up for success in the long term.
Exactly, yeah.
S- So if you had to start over from day one, what would you have done differently?
What I would have done differently is I definitely probably, it sounds weird to say, but I actually probably would have raised my prices sooner.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, that's nothing to say that like I don't want to do anything for cheap or anything like that, or I
Mm-hmm.
deserve to be making more money at an earlier age. But one of the things I've noticed that when I started raising my prices and stuff was that when working with couples, it's almost like a mental thing, and I do it myself too. And everyone
Mm-hmm.
doesn't realize that they do it until they notice it actually happen in action. But like for example, when I was charging like $700 for a wedding, which
Mm-hmm.
is astronomically cheap, and like I'm pretty much losing money in that situation. Couples would be asking me a million questions, and there's no problem asking questions, but they'll be asking things like, "Oh, could I handle like things in the rain? What is my gear?" When they don't even know what the gear is themselves. Um, and like, do I have insurance and stuff like that? And there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with those questions, but when I start upping my prices, people just they just like automatically assume, "Oh, okay, that guy probably has backup gear. That guy probably has good gear.
Yeah.
He probably has insurance." Like all of those things are automatically assumed and stuff like that. And it's people are questioning if you can handle it or not. So that was
Yeah.
that would probably be one of the things probably would have done again is do that, because then I would skip over that awkward situation, because there was a lot of clients that I was working with and talking to where
Mhm.
not that I did anything negative or I did anything wrong, but it was just like, "Oh, so you don't use this particular camera, which some random person told me that you should be using this particular camera. Okay, then I'm not going to work with you." And it's like,
Okay.
but this
Yeah.
the cameras I got do the job. So it's
Yeah.
like, so it's just awkward things like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah, it makes sense, they get the feeling that because you charge more, you have the ability to charge more. It shows that you're a professional.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay, and so what is the toughest part about having a business during COVID and moving forward, or how has it impacted your business?
Oh, so my business I would have went full time probably a year ago if it wasn't for COVID. I literally didn't do I did in all of 2020. I think I went outside and shot with a camera a total of 5 times, maybe. I think
Okay.
for all of 2020. So
Yeah.
so it was a really funny thing because, oh no, all right, here's your pacifier. So 2020 definitely was devastating for a lot of businesses, in particular photographers. I mean, not in particular, everyone did, but
Yeah.
photographers really got uh, uh, messed up during 2020 because
Mm-hmm.
of just that situation. And I mean, the only thing that got me through 2020, to be honest, was just that I actually had a background in IT for 12 years. So I was usually able to find a job and make money during that time. So I wasn't worried about that. But in terms of my business, yeah, it was on pause for
Yeah,
a full year. And
it
I'm
makes
actually still
sense.
dealing with the ramifications from that. Like, I just did another shoot with a couple the other day, and I literally have a part two of a wedding this Saturday with
Uh,
another couple who had a wedding during COVID. So it's like I'm still feeling the ramifications of it. And I'm sure that there's other photographers out there that are feeling it way worse than me because they probably had way more bookings than me during 2020.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, hopefully it's going better right now, and
Oh yeah.
what I've heard from you is going great.
Oh yeah. It's everything's awesome right now. I couldn't it's it's very hard for it to be much better. So
Wow, that's good news. So we're already going to the final question. If a customer or a couple was to choose between your business and three others just like it, why would you suggest they at least give you a try first?
um oh well, that one's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when you're working with a lot of other photographers, they I mean, to put it bluntly, they are trying to sell you on their photos, and that I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. Photos are a huge aspect of how you're dealing with your wedding and stuff like that. And when it comes to how your photos look, that's very important. Style is very important. But when it also comes to everything else besides that, like when it comes to, do you even enjoy working with that person?
Yeah.
Does that person get you in what you're trying to go with for your wedding? Is that person going to be judgmental about anything? Is that person also going to help you like almost bring your wedding to that next level in terms of how your theme's working and everything like that? I'm ideal for that because I'm the kind of person who listens to those things. I pay attention to those things. I also personally like add my own little touches to those things without you even noticing half the time. Like for example, I just did a wedding where a couple was talking to me about how they just like they're asking me like do like little edits, like magic edits for the Harry Potter wedding and stuff. And then I showed them a photo and they're just like, "Oh my god, that's like my favorite photo." And I was like, "Wait a second, how come there's no cables or anything around this light?" Because they had these lights. I wish I could show you a photo of it right now, but they had these lights, and there was in the actual photo, there's cables everywhere. It was like I wouldn't say it was a mess, but there was cables everywhere in that photo. And I was like, oh yeah, I edited all those photos out, and it was like, oh my god, that made the photo because it looked so like it looked kind of cheap and like not greatly put together ish. And it was like, no, but now it looks like it was like professionally set up and all this other stuff. Is like that made the photo. So it's like little things like that, and little touches like that that I like to add to photos and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, I like to think that the photos look great personally. So, but I'm biased, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, you should be, the reason why you should be working with me is because I'm the geeky photographer and I
Yeah.
love working with other geeks, and I definitely uh, uh, help your wedding showcase that.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds awesome. And if when I'm going to marry, it might take a while before I do. I'm I would definitely hire you. And I have one more question actually that
Yeah.
came up in me. So, what are your goals for the coming 6 to 12 months in your business? Where do you want to grow to?
Um, where I want to grow to in the next 6 to 12 months, ideally, is I want to get the photo booth side of things off the ground as well.
Yeah.
The photography end of things is going super well. That can always do some improving and stuff like that, of course. But when it
Hmm.
comes to the photo booth things, I want that to take off as well. I know I have several photo. I had at least 6 or 7 or so photo booth events this year, and next year I at least have like another 6 or 7 more. But it's one of those things where I want to get that off the ground because I think it would just also be really cool for couples to be utilizing a geeky atmosphere for their photo booths as well. That's something that you don't see at photo booths because usually when you hire a photo booth thing, they have generic um, posters and signs and masks and glasses and stuff like that. But there's none that are for like Star Trek fans, where it's like, oh, you get a blaster phaser, or you get like the Star Trek uniform, or you don't see like um, someone walk around with like a Mandalorian rifle or
Hmm.
something like that, or like I said before, with the Harry Potter robes with the houses on it and wands and stuff like that. You don't see that, and that's something which I am certain a lot of people would actually want to have. So
Hmm.
yeah, so I'd like to get that off the ground just to get people into those sort of photo booths where it's a little bit more custom and it's a lot more engaging, a lot more unique. I guess the best way to put it.
Okay. Well, thank you for again taking the time to speak with us. It was a pleasure meeting you and hearing your story. And
Yeah, thank you, man.
yes, I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
See ya.